there was a gentleman by the name of Bob Blake. Bob Blake had an agency in Long Beach.
I know Bob.
You know Bob? So Bob
know.
had the most diverse agency that I'd ever seen. He had Kenny Wong and Gong. He had Latina. Obviously he's in LA. So let me not, you know what I mean? He's in a space where that. But when I went out to see it, man, I took it when I came back in the business area. I took every dime I had. This is a nugget for somebody. I took every dime I had because I was watching him in the journals and I would watch his numbers. He and another guy named Glenn Pierce down in North Carolina. And I would watch these guys all over, man. But Bob's agency was constantly growing. And I called Bob. Bob finally called me back. And I just asked Bob, I said, man, can I come out and see what you guys are doing? And he was like, absolutely. You can come out here. I took 3 days, went out, took every dime I had, flew out to California just to put eyes on what I thought I was reading from journals and bulletins and that. And to see the diversity, the profitability made sense because they were able to attack. There was no stone unturned, Eric, because they had the people that could facilitate that. And I realized, just like you, I'm a guy that has a lot of energy. And guess what? There's a lot of people that don't like that. They think that it's manufactured. They think it's something that I make up to be. This is just who the hell I was wired to be. And I don't put that aside for anybody because it's worked for me where it works. But somebody who doesn't have a lot of energy, they're not going to be attracted to me. And so that's fine. I need to have somebody to get the deal done, though. I need somebody to get the deal done. I knew I had to have women. I knew for me, I went into some places and they weren't used to seeing an African-American broker. So I had to have a white guy with me to be able to go in and get the deal done. And I was comfortable in him being, he or she being whoever they need to be. Do you need to be the CEO today? I don't have any problem. Let's get the damn deal done. So I think from a profitability standpoint alone, you make the best argument of everybody. Put the DEI thing to the side and let's just talk about being a good business partner.
Welcome to the RockstarsRocking podcast, powered by Voluntary Disruption, a show dedicated to people who are crushing their business and life goals. These are bite-sized conversations with leading rock stars in their respective industry who are pumped to share their story to help drive you to the next level. So, are you ready to rock? Speaking of rock stars, here's your host, Eric Silverman.
Hey, rock stars, welcome back to another episode of Rockstars Rocking, where you know what I'm going to say. If you've listened to the show, I only have the best, the highest end, top-notch rock stars rocking in their given industry, both in business and in personal life. And guess what? This week is absolutely no exception. Everybody, please meet my good friend Kareim Cade, founder and president of Great Lakes Benefit Group. And he's beyond that, by the way. You're going to hear, so just wait for it. Kareim, what's up, man?
What's up, baby? What's happening with you, Eric? Good to see you, brother.
Hey, man, feelings mutual. It's always good to be seen and not viewed. I think that's what my dad would say.
That's it.
See, I'm a dad, so I can make dad jokes. It's all right. A lot of people.
I'm a dad. I can make dad jokes too. That's the deal, right? That's what we do.
That's right. That's right.
Until our kids said they were corny, right? And they're like, "You're not really cool, Dad."
I just remind my kids, even my daughter, that they're gonna make dad jokes too one day.
Yeah, and I just remind them that you're coming off payroll at some point in time. So be nice if you want to stay in the wheel.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, for those that don't know Kareim, and if you don't know him, go ahead and follow him or connect with him on LinkedIn because you need to change that right away. But most of you may already know his name. He was honored as a top 5 broker of the year finalist by Benefits Pro magazine back in 2019, before the world changed, quite candidly.
Absolutely.
And it changed a bit. But nonetheless, that's for those listening, that's the highest industry honor we have, is being on that stage. I mean, think about how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are surrounding the employee benefits world, and to be honored in the whole year as a top 5. That's a big deal. I was in the audience in Miami when you were up on stage answering questions, and I know we got to know each other a lot better at that conference and have stayed in touch ever since. But I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for our good friend Andy Neary. Yeah, and I don't remember the exact connection, but at some point he introduced us. So shout out to Andy, who's also been a guest on the show prior.
Yes. Shout out to Andy. That is my partner. Andy and I have been knowing each other for years now. And I told him once he met me, it was like Death Row Records. He couldn't get rid of me, man. It was, you know what I mean? This is the deal.
I love it. I love it. So let's flash backwards here. Let's peel back the onion a little bit. You've been in the employee benefits industry a little bit longer than me, not by much. You're a little bit older, but not by much. Yeah, I started in 1999. It looks like you started in the mid 90s.
How
did you even get into benefits? Like, you didn't just wake up and say one day, "Hey, mama, I want to sell insurance." That probably didn't come out of your mouth. It didn't come out of my mouth.
No, not at all. But I did have the luxury of watching mom leave a career where she worked at one of the energy companies, Detroit Edison here, and left a career. Had a friend of hers from back in the day that approached her about going to the insurance business, and she got involved and got to New York Life and started her career at New York Life. And so that was probably when I was about 13 years old. So I got an opportunity to see my mother change career, give up a quote unquote good job to go chase a career in the insurance business. And at that time, you know, it's all kitchen table business. And so how I really got connected to that is that I put together the folders, right? I put together folders for her presentations and that kind of deal, and really kind of learned and saw what she did. Now, you fast forward of how I got into the business, never thought I was going to come into the business. Went to school at a small private school, Clark Atlanta University, the Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a historical Black college and university. And I was there. My third year in, man, I get a call from my mom. And my mom was like, "Hey, you having a great time?" I'm like, "I'm having a fantastic time." And she's like, "That's great, because I'm only paying for, me and your dad are paying for 4 years. So I don't know what you're doing right now, but you need to figure it out." And I'm like, "Well, I'm smoking a lot of good weed, Mom. I'm running around town. This is the chronic era, right? This is Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. It's the chronic era. So I'm having a blast." They had this thing called Freaknik in Atlanta. I mean, I'm living my best life. She says, "Well, good, because you're going to have to do something different." And so I went to my advisor, right? Taking a couple of courses in insurance and real estate and that kind of deal. And my advisor said, "Hey, you can get out with a degree in insurance and risk management." So that's a little known fact that I actually have a degree in insurance and risk management. And I was the only person at Clark Atlanta that year to graduate with that degree.
Wow.
And so I'd love to tell you, I was just that smart. I'm just like, hell, this is the quickest way out. And this is something that I at least know that my mom has been successful in. So why don't I start there? So, man, I went from there, went back home in 1995. And my mother did one of the best things she could do for me, Eric. Two things that she's done fantastic, amongst a lot of things, but particularly pertaining to the business. Is first, she told me to go to New York Life. And I'm like, "Well, why should I go to New York Life?" She said, "You need to learn the business. You need to go somewhere where they're going to teach you the business, that you can understand all facets of the business, because there's so many on and off ramps," as she referred to it, in this space. And one of the things that I don't want you to do is to get caught up in the idea of the month club, that you're always chasing something, because somebody's always going to come. It's going to be annuities. It's going to be life insurance. It's going to be disability. So I went and I learned the business, and I failed miserably, because what did they tell me to do, Eric? They told me to make a list of my 100 friends, and let's call them all. And I'm like, well, all my friends are still drinking beer, smoking a lot of weed, and they don't have any money for anything that we're talking about here. So I'm going to fail. So I failed miserably at New York Life. I learned a lot. I made those cold calls. I dialed for dollars and failed miserably. And then I went to Northwestern Mutual, as if I didn't get enough from New York Life. Went to Northwestern Mutual, stayed there probably 3 months, same program. And then I called my mom and said, "Hey, I'm going to come work for you." Mom did the second best thing for me. I went and worked for mom. This is 1996. So I've only been in the business now a year, and I failed miserably throughout. I've just gotten married. And my mother told me, she said, "You know what? Your wife is going to put you out because you're not making any money. You know, and you can't go into a marriage not making money like this." And so she said, "I'm going to let you come work for me. Now that you've gone out, you figured it out, I'm going to let you go work for me," because it was in that wonderful thing that you and I talked about, Eric, which is voluntary benefits. So she said, payroll deduction is a different animal. You can probably learn this. You can get started. And I went out and she gave me a couple of schools to call on and did some things. And one day she called me 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was still at home. I'm dating myself. This was prior to cell phones. My answer machine came on. I picked up the phone and said, "Hey." And she said, "Why are you at home at 11 o'clock in the morning?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm waiting for the traffic to die down." She said, "Do you know that my top agents have been out since 6 o'clock this morning, Kareem? Do you know that they've already had breakfast meetings? They're already going towards their lunch meetings right now, and you haven't even left the house. You're not going to make it in this business. So I suggest that you do something different, but I'm not going to let you mess up this business that I've created, and you're going to need to go figure out something else, man." And so she fired me. Now, when she's here, Eric, and I'll see her later tonight, she always says that, no, she didn't fire me. I fired myself. And now I'm mature enough now, Eric, to realize that I did fire myself, man, because I wasn't willing to do the work. I thought that she was going to kind of give me a handout. I'm the only child, her only child, born on my mother's birthday, bro. I should have the silver spoon. Negative. She did the second best thing for me as it relates to this business, and she fired me. And I wasn't taught school for 2.5 years, man. And then came back in 1998, followed some other agencies, learned, got successful, and the rest, as they say, is kind of history, man.
Dude, so I got to unpack some of that. That was great. So when you mentioned how you started helping, put folders together, stuff folders, that flashed back. Now, I didn't have kids at the time, but my girlfriend and now wife of all 18 years almost, she used to help me pack folders. So I was the one needing her help. And I just wish we had kids back then to put it on them. But that just brought up all these memories. I can remember laying them out on the kitchen table, and the dining room table.
Yes.
Oh man! And if you really needed room, you put them on the carpet.
Yes, I'd make the circle. We had an old ping pong table, and you just lay stuff out on the ping pong table. You walk around and you just build folders, man. And that was my deal. I had to build the folders.
So I love how you didn't realize it at the time that you were quote unquote fired by mom, but you weren't fired by mom, but you didn't realize that at the time. You realized it years later that you fired yourself. And look, I mean, I've hired and trained thousands of sales reps in the similar industry, same industry, similar style, different company. Yes. And they fired themselves every day. I didn't fire anybody ever. Right. Never in the history of the world have I fired somebody from the insurance world as an agent. I mean, I would have those same conversations. Granted, they did have cell phones eventually, and we'd call them up, or we'd even text them, and we'd say, "What's up?" And we knew they were in bed. And then they want to blame others. It's always easier to blame others than yourself. So I love how you finally were able to look in the mirror and say, "Damn, she's right."
She was right, man. And again, not only was she just right, Eric, but it was that pivotal point that I think we all come to where it's time to grow up, right? You've partied, you've had a great time on somebody else's dime, and now you have a wife, didn't have kids at that time, but you've got to step up and be a man. You've got to step up and do what you've been called to do. And I just wasn't there. So the mature Kareim looks back on that and says, "Wow. That's the best thing," because when I look at people who've been given something, they just don't appreciate it in the same manner, right? And so
no skin in the game.
No skin in the game. And today, I'm thankful. She sits back and she says, "Now look at you now. Had I continued to coddle you and hold you, you would not have the success that you've been able to have because I would have given it to you. And I just wasn't going to derail your career like that." So I'm very thankful, man.
Well, big shout out to mom. What's mom's name?
Mom's name is Pat Reed. Pat Reed. And so that is my
awesome.
Biggest cheerleader. And as I said, this year I was born on her 25th birthday, man. So this year I turned 50. She'll be 75, man. And so we're looking at having a great time this year. And now it's all about her, right? I care less. And that she always tells me she shared her birthday the first 12 years with me. And so now I feel like on the back end, I can it's all about her birthday, man. My birthday
she's still not out there selling, right?
No,
okay.
No. No, she's been retired for a while now. I think she shut it down maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay, good for her. She earned it, man.
She did.
Earned it.
She did.
So let's flash forward. So you were with a couple different carriers. You were helping them grow their business and their market. But let's flash forward. You then eventually you said in the at some point you said enough. And it's not a disrespectful thing to the carriers. I was a carrier guy. I always say I'm a recovering carrier rep. So we're two recovering carrier reps, right?
Right.
But eventually you said enough, just like I did. You did it earlier than me, so I'm proud of you there, and I'm envious. What was your turning point? And not to be negative, but what happened? There had to have been a light bulb moment at some point where you said, "This is a good gig. It's working, but I need to be bigger. I need to do it on my own." What was that light bulb moment?
Well, I'll tell you two things, Eric. I mean, two things. So one, the agency that I was working for was a fantastic agency. I mean, they showed me everything, had been very successful in voluntary benefits, but I'd been doing that for a couple of years, from 1998 until I didn't start my own until 2006. So 1998 through 2006, I've been working for that agency, and we were very successful. We've been with Colonial. We were the number one agency in the country 3 years in a row. Been to USA Today. We were just blowing it out. And of course, the young guy comes in, and I'm the young guy, and I'm like, "Hey, you know what? This is great, but I think I need some equity in here." You know what I mean? I need an equity play, because I think that in my mind we're bringing in 40.
You're thinking big though. You're thinking beyond the day.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm like we're bringing in revenue, and the two agency principals, they traveled all the time, and I was always kind of sitting back saying, "Well, wait a minute, you guys fly on the same plane, and what if something happens?" And then I'm building all this up. Are you going to leave somebody? Those were the questions. So that was the first thing. So I went and I talked to one of the principals. I talked to the owner, and I'm kind of like, well, hey, I want to have some access. And I remember him sitting back and saying to me, you know what? That's great, Kareem. But if you feel that way, that's not something that we're prepared to do. And we feel that way, you probably should go get your own shot, hang your own shingle. Right. And I was like, damn. Okay. I wasn't expecting that, but it was good. And the second thing was with Colonial, I realized, and again, not bashing the carrier, but I realized as a carrier rep, they owned all my business and that they reserved the right to put another rep in my business. They reserved the right to take the business and recode it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm going to build all this up. And you're telling me that I don't have any control. I don't have any say so. Well, no, when you look at your contract, Kareem, that was it. So those were the two things, man, that really got me to say, you know what? I'm truly an entrepreneur. And not only an entrepreneur, but the same way that this family has set things up for their family, I want to have those same parameters for my family. Even though I didn't have a family at the time, I want to have that. And so I set out to go out and just take that charge at that point, man.
So, yeah, I mean, look, I had a similar epiphany, different story. I'm not going to, today's about you, but we all, not all, I can't say all, that'd be a lie. A lot of us in the industry that start in the carrier world have an epiphany of some sort in a similar nature to what you just described. And, and that's okay. I've met a million health brokers that don't touch our side of the industry, but they have their own story that's very similar, where they were selling, a blue plan as a carrier rep for United or Aetna or any of these great carriers. That's fine. And they decided they wanted to be more agnostic and do something on their own. So that's a great story. Now, here's the backup question. When you were growing up, did it ever occur to you that you wanted to own and run your own business? Forget the industry. Just you wanted to have your own business. You didn't even know what. You wanted to have your own business.
Yes. So I always knew I wanted to be in some form of sales, right? So sales and having a business. So three things happened for me as a kid. So one, I had a lawn service. I had a lawn service, man, and I was probably 14 years old, and I cut probably 7 houses on my block. And I did that for 2 summers, man. And then I had this bright idea, Eric, that I wanted to get a real job. And my parents kept looking at me like, wait a minute, you're making, I think I was making $10 a lawn back then. You're making $70 a week.
It's a lot.
Tax free, and I didn't understand anything. And I'm like, no, I want a job. My friends are all getting jobs. I want a job. And so I went and got a job in the grocery store. And I was cleaning, taking bottles back. Here in Michigan, we have bottle returns. So I was taking bottles back and I was bagging, right? And clean up on aisle 3. I was the guy. That was it. And they started taking these taxes and all this. And I wasn't making the same amount of money that I've been making before. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this. I need a little bit. So that was one thing. The other thing I had was 2 sales opportunities. I went to a Catholic school growing up, and I had a magazine sale and I had a candy sale. And in both of those respective sales over the years, I was always in the top 5. So, and my parents had a thing where they weren't going to sell my magazines or my candy for me. You know what? You got to sell them. You want to go get these little prizes or whatever Jean Day it was in Catholic school. If you got a Jean Day, that was a big deal, right? So those were the things. So I knew then, even coming when I got to college, I'm like, damn it, I need to take these skills. And so my mother always talks about that. Even in college, I found myself dibbling and dabbling in some areas that I probably had no business in, Eric, but I was good at it. I was good at it. And so I realized if I take these powers and use them for good and go into entrepreneurship, then I'm going to be able to set a table again for my family. I was always thinking about down the line, what is this going to look like and what legacy will I leave? What significance will I leave behind for my family and for the rest of the generations to come behind? And I knew I could do it through entrepreneurship.
So we're talking about legacy. We're talking about building out your business and being an entrepreneur. I mean, entrepreneurs are the only people on earth that are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week. And anybody that's an entrepreneur knows that.
Yes.
And 80 could be a light week, depending on where you are in your business.
Correct.
Let's talk about the future. So where's the future of the employee benefits and the insurance industry in general? Because to me, in my opinion, and I don't know that you'd agree or not, but you tell me in a second, to me, our industry, yeah, it's getting better. There's ladies entering. There's some diversity here and there, but I got to tell you, man, it's still pale, stale, and male. And I didn't make that quote up. That's from our good friend Susan Combs, who's very heavily involved with Benefits Pro magazine as well. Do you see it? I imagine you got to see it. Like, what can we do to change it?
Well, I think it's doing it on purpose, right? It's got to be specific intent, behind it. And I don't think that we have done a great job of exposing it to other other nationalities, other ethnicities, other people. It's been a very controlled growth. When I look at agencies, and everybody looks alike, and then I look and say, well, tell me about your book of business, and you tell me about how you have 5 accounts in the urban area, and you're going into the rural area, and everything, but nobody in your agency reflects that, right. and I'm just like, well, so you can't tell me that you can't find them because you're seeing them as clients, right? So if you're seeing them as clients, then obviously you have no problems with interacting with folks that don't look like you. And so what are we doing? And so I think that our industry is so far behind. And I think we're still just checking the box. At the end of the day, I'm still walking into the room. The last session you and I were for Benefits Pro, it was myself and there was Vince, who's another vendor that was there. But you're talking about I've been in the business since 95, and I'm still walking into rooms, and I'm the only African American in the room. Besides maybe if it's a banquet facility, someone who's serving food or someone who's there, but I'm the only one in the room. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. I'm not going to downplay myself, Eric, but I ain't that sharp of a guy that somebody just said, okay, well, you're the only guy that can make this happen. I know people that are way sharper than me, but they just have not been given the opportunity. And so I think I've been asked this question by several others. Well, what can we do? And I'm like, well, you know what? Your kids are playing sports together. Their dad or their mom is somebody that doesn't look like you, that you haven't talked to. Why wouldn't you tell them about a business as good as this? Why wouldn't you invite them to take a look at it? Because as you and I have alluded to, none of us just woke up and got in the business. And so that's something on specific intent that you do because you're doing it with the folks that you've hired inside your office. You found those folks and wherever their settings were, somebody referred you to them, something along those lines, and you saw fit to hire them into the organization. And so for us, what we're doing is we're doing it on purpose. And I can't just speak this without, living it myself. Because when I started out, Eric, if you might imagine, I had a burr up my ass. I'm like, man, I just want to have a Black agency, African-American agency. I want to show and prove that we can do it. So I used to tell my guys internally, like, you know what? I don't want to be, as we refer to in football, I'm using sports analogy. I didn't want to be a black quarterback because they always pigeonhole black quarterback. Well, you got to be able to run. You can't throw like Peyton Manning because you can't think like Peyton Manning, but you can run fast. So we're gonna make you a black quarterback. We're gonna make plays around it. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to be a black insurance agent. I want to compete against Eric. If Eric is the best, damn it, I want to compete against Eric. And I want to compete as much of a level field as I can compete on. That's what I want to do. And so what I realized is that I had to start going out and doing the same thing because I'd had this mindset of I was going to have an African-American agency. But damn, Eric, if I got an African-American agency, I'm doing the exact same thing that has been done to me. Now I'm just doing it with all black folks. So I was missing the mark. So my last 2 interns, man, my last intern was phenomenal, doing fantastic over CBS right now, was Bangladeshi. My intern before that was Arab American. And so I had to start looking outside of myself as well to say diversity doesn't mean black. Diversity means a whole lot of marginalized folks that have not had an opportunity. And at the end of the day, I just want other people in the space. And so we are really with specific intent going out and talking to those individuals who don't get an opportunity to be exposed to what our business is. I don't care if they're a finance major, a marketing major. They don't have to be on the sales side. You and I know in this industry, there's so many roles for a person. We need them in the corporate office, right? We need diversity in all of these other locations. It may be in a PNC shop. It may be in an annuity shop. I don't care. I just know that there's so many on and off ramps in our space. If I can get them exposed, then they will have an opportunity to look at this for a career for themselves. And so that's what we're doing. And I think as an industry as a whole, as I talk to folks, I'm really a little bit more, if I'm not boisterous enough right now, Eric, I'm just speaking it loud and saying, I've got a platform now. I don't need per se what I needed years ago when I was growing a business. And I don't have to, please give me an opportunity. I don't have to do that shit any longer. So because of that, I can now have a strong enough voice to say, we've been successful in doing this. Why are you not doing this on purpose? Why are you not doing this on purpose? If you want to find those folks, you can find them on purpose. And I'm challenging, large agencies, I don't care who they are, to say, you know what, you've got internships. If I look at your internship program and I look and say everybody looks the same, then we're still perpetuating the exact same thing that's out there. And so I just think as an industry as a whole, we're way behind. And I'm just hoping there's going to be a few more allies that I can have and link up with that will go out and go on a limb with me on this.
I like what you said, that you recognized quickly that you were missing the mark, that you had that chip on the shoulder, for lack of a better word, and you were like, yes, I just want to do it this way. But then you were able to see through it and understand that you didn't want to be that guy either. And you know what? Candidly, it reminds me in some capacity of what we talked about a minute ago with respect to your mom fired you, but you really fired yourself. You had that ability to mentally say, you know what? That's a bad outlook. And I need to, if I'm going to preach it, I need to be it. So whether I'm hiring an Arab American or even an old white guy, like you want to be able to have the opportunity available for anybody and everybody that deserves it.
Exactly.
And I like that a lot. I think that's smart. And look, when I recruited all those people back in my carrier days, I used to preach all the time that I need to hire chameleons. And what I mean by that is I need to hire people that look and speak and act the way that our book of business is and is going to be. And I didn't do it because, no disrespect to anybody, I didn't do it because I needed quote unquote diversity. I didn't do it because it was a buzzword. I did it because I'm a business person. I want to make a lot of money.
Come on now.
It would be ridiculously stupid of me to hire all me's. Now, if they want to have my personality, no, I'm just kidding. My point is I need different people, or I'm not going to close mega deals because I'm not going to get along with everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, my personality. So
Correct.
I need females. I need black and white. I need, you name it.
And I think that is the place that I struggle with, because as we tell this story, I'm like, guys, look at the economics of it. If you don't understand anything else, forget that. Like, to your point, I don't want to check the box, but if it's going to make you more profitable, I understand the profit margins in there when we have diverse groups. Here's what's interesting about when I came back to Colonial in 98, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell this story quickly. There was a gentleman by the name of Bob Blake. Bob Blake had an agency in Long Beach.
I know Bob.
You know Bob? So Bob had the most diverse agency that I'd ever seen. He had Kenny Wong and Gong. He had Latina. Obviously he's in LA. So let me not, you know what I mean? He's in a space where that there. But when I went out to see it, man, I took it, when I came back in the business area, I took every dime I had. This is a nugget for somebody. I took every dime I had because I was watching him in the journals and I would watch his numbers. He and another guy named Glenn Pierce down in North Carolina. And I would watch these guys all over, man. But Bob's agency was constantly growing. And I called Bob. Bob finally called me back. And I just asked Bob, I said, man, can I come out and see what you guys are doing? And he was like, absolutely. You can come out here. I took 3 days, went out, took every dime I had, flew out to California just to put eyes on what I thought I was reading from journals and bulletins and that time. And to see the diversity, the profitability made sense because they were able to attack. There was no stone unturned, Eric, because they had the people that could facilitate that. And I realized, just like you, I'm a guy that has a lot of energy. And guess what? There's a lot of people that don't like that. They think that is manufactured. They think it's something that I make up to be. This is just who the hell I was wired to be. And I don't put that aside for anybody because it's worked for me where it works. But somebody who doesn't have a lot of energy, they're not going to be attracted to me. And so that's fine. I need to have somebody to get the deal done, though. I need somebody to get the deal done. I knew I had to have women. I knew for me, I went into some places and they weren't used to seeing an African-American broker. So I had to have a white guy with me to be able to go in and get the deal done. And I was comfortable in him being, he or she being whoever they need to be. Do you need to be the CEO today? I don't have a problem. Let's get the damn deal done. So I think from a profitability standpoint alone, you make the best argument of everybody. Put the DEI thing to the side and let's just talk about being a good business person. And in our case, our product and service, our solution serves everybody. So why would we not want to bring everybody in the fold to make sure that we get more of them?
It reminds me, if it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Not
right?
at all.
It's a fact. It's a fact. Now, look, I certainly I met Bob, and he has an incredible operator. He had.
Yeah, he's no longer.
Years.
Yeah, he
There you
gave
go.
that operation up, but it was an
There you
incredible
go.
operation.
Like I said, I mean, we weren't close friends, but I had the privilege of seeing his operation when I was in LA, and it was
Yes.
incredible. But everything you just described, not that my audience, everybody listening, thank you, but not that everybody mostly is in the insurance business, but what you just described is just business. It's just
It's just good
economics.
business
I mean,
sense. Yes.
I have a good buddy who runs a carpet company, Hardwoods Carpet. We coach softball together with our daughters. He's very successful, does a lot of high-end houses, but he does a lot of low-end stuff too. And he is not, his biggest market is where his competitor is. And I just asked him, because it's a franchise, so it's the same name company.
Okay.
And I said, how can you have so much success here when your competitor's literally at an office right there? And he says, because if you walk in there, it's all old white men and white ladies, and their office, their showroom is in the middle of an area that doesn't dictate that employment.
Right.
And the owner is just an old style guy, and he refuses to hire new people, and his business is crumbling.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, my buddy, he'll hire anybody and everybody that fits the profile in a good way.
Correct.
To accommodate the market. That's why his business is taking off like a rocket ship. So everything you said is not just insurance, is my point.
No, it's universal. And I'll tell you what's interesting about that is that when I had Arafat, who was my Bangladeshi intern, come on board with me, I didn't know the first thing about the difference between what was going on with Pakistan versus Bangladesh versus, I didn't know anything about that, right? Had no idea of the historical facts and how there were different people groups amongst them and what have you. I didn't even know that we had a Bangla town here in Michigan. Wow. That he ended up turning me on to. And I met all kind of people. I went to my first Bangladeshi wedding. I mean, it opened me up. And so what it does for me is not only did it give me the ability to meet other people where they are and for them to realize that at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. I want my kids to be safe. You want your kids to be safe. I want to have a great opportunity in this country. You want to have a great opportunity. I want to live somewhere safe. You want to live. I mean, we all wanted the same thing. And they had a bunch of doctors and other folks that were in their business and their family. But when they got a chance to meet me, they're like, man, he's taken our nephew, our son under his wing, and he's been willing to dump everything into our guy, and he doesn't look anything like him. And I'm like, well, no, because to your point, I'm like, here is a kid that's willing to learn, that wants to learn, that's eager to get out in front of it. And that's all I can look for. The one thing I used to always say when I had a lot of agents working for me, Eric, was that, you know what? I can teach you skill set. I can't teach you attitude, though. I can't teach you how to show up every day. I don't have time to develop that in you. You either have that or you don't. However, if you got a great attitude, I can teach you the skill set of what I do, because this is a process to doing this. This is just law of numbers. I mean, we run the numbers. You're going to be successful in doing this, and we can get better at it. But if you got a crappy attitude to start the day with, I just can't deal with you. And this kid had a fantastic, and one of the things that I did, back to us talking about exposing the business, is that we have relationships with different universities. So I have a relationship with Eastern Michigan University here, and they allow me to come into the healthcare administration classes. And I'm a guest speaker. I'm a guest lecturer year in and year out. I do that there. I do it at FAMU. I do it at Clark Atlanta University. I'm a guest lecturer, and I come in and talk about it, not just my business. I talk about the business, but I talk about success principles. I talk about mindset. I talk about all those things, because as you and I are talking about it right now, it doesn't matter whether it's in the insurance business. I can take the same skill set and transfer it over selling candle wax, damn it, and it wouldn't matter. I know the process, right? But what I did was, when I had that kid, man, that kid, the Arab American kid, Hassan, man, these kids have gone on to do fantastic things, and they're still in the industry, even though they don't work for me. And I was comfortable with that. It wasn't about me trying to get them and keep them. I wanted to get them in and let them just understand what's available to them. And so, you know, we've done that, and we continue to do that. But those internships and speaking at those universities has been a great way for us to find talent and build the bench strength at the same time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I was running the agency of yesteryear that I used to have, and back in the carrier world, I built my entire business in a good way, off of interns. And there's many, I call them interns, that are still in the business to this day, and they're getting old like me and you, and they're very successful. They may or may not be with the same carrier, and that's totally fine, but they're in the industry, and I'm close with them. And the reality is, if there's anybody listening to this and you have an agency or you're a carrier rep and you have a team or you want to build a team, you are missing the mark if you are not out there talking to the local colleges, universities, even community colleges. There's so many kids that are still in school that need a professional experience. And whether they go into the insurance world as a full-time job or not, I don't know that that matters. What matters is them learning discipline and work ethic, attitude, and ultimately, if they're coachable, it just becomes a math equation because the numbers work, whether you apply them to insurance or whether you apply it to another industry. So get yourself, I just tell anybody listening, get yourself over to one of those universities and colleges and start those relationships.
And think about this. You said the key word, coachable. I mean, when you're coachable and trainable, they haven't been tainted yet, right? And that's what was beautiful for me is that they hadn't been tainted and they were sponges. They just soaked up everything because they didn't know to challenge anything to say, oh, that won't work. That can't work. All they knew is that, hey, they've seen my success. They could see the success there. They could see what we have been accomplishing over the years. And they were just like, hey, I'm dialed all the way in. I'm dialed all the way in. And that's the difference between finding somebody who's had some work experience, who's done a couple of things. They've had a couple of sales jobs. They hated this over here. They bring all that baggage with them. These kids didn't have any of that. They came in, I'm willing to work. I'll do whatever it takes to get
clean
here.
slate.
I understand it's the deal. And you can't beat that. You can't beat that.
You can't beat it. Not the worst. I don't want to be too mean, but some of the worst people I ever hired were people that had the biggest egos and negative attitudes. They're Mr. Miss Big Shot, 20, 30 years sales experience, insurance background. I used to run from them after I realized. It took me a while, but then I used to run from them. It wasn't worth the headache. Give me a handful of new interns that are fresh and green and a clean slate. I'll take them any day of the week.
I'll take them any day.
Hey, before we wrap up, as we're closing out, I want to ask you, and I hope you guys are going to continue it. You guys, at least every few weeks, you and Andy Neary have been doing a session called Black and White, the truth about benefit advising. And I'm really digging it. I've been looking at the clips. I've been checking out the full video. Please tell me you're going to continue doing those throughout the year.
We are. And so Andy and I have just talked about just what that looks like, because I think so much of it is we focus in on products. And you and I know, Eric, products, hell, there's 1,800 insurance companies out there and they're all making a profit. So somebody's selling something every day, right? It's the old adage people used to tell me, nobody gets up to buy insurance. Somebody gets up to go sell some insurance, right? So, I mean, if you're calling me to buy insurance, it's because you just had an ailment. Something just took place. If you're calling me for insurance, you just had a heart attack. I already know the deal, right? Somebody just died. Something happened. And so what we really want to talk about is, what does that mindset look like? And so we're having fun talking about that, because for me, that was the thing that kept me in the business. I mean, when you're getting your ass kicked all day long and you going out, and I was old school. So everybody has I'm just learning. I'm an old dog learning new tricks. So I'm just learning how to market on LinkedIn or market on a social media platform. I was out knocking on doors, bro. Door by door. Hey, you'll remember this, Eric. No solicitation. That's the welcome mat. Let's go in. And so I've been kicked out of more places, man, over the years. But it built up this exterior that, it's just a different ball game. And so that was all mindset, though, because if I'm like you, I look at how many, at the height of my agency, we had about 57 producers. The most whining, crying. I spent half the day in the office with people telling me all the things. And it was all mindset stuff, because they weren't doing the work. The work was the same. I could take somebody who I thought wasn't going to make it, Eric, had a great attitude, and I could take the person who I thought that they're going to be they're going to be my rock star rocking, and it would be just the opposite. The person who I thought was the rock star, who looked good, smelled good, had the worst attitude, could not get anything done. Every time. And the little person that's over in the corner looked a little docile, that looked a little disheveled, didn't really know. They would follow that program left to right with a great attitude. And so Andy and I are talking about, what happens with most young brokers, and it's the same thing that happened to me early on. Our business has so many opportunities in it that, I mean, between an email every day, sell these annuities for us, sell us final expense insurance, sell us, disability insurance. Oh, you should be in a long-term care. Oh, Medicare is really where everybody is, but 10,000 people turn 65. And so you can get all caught up on chasing the next best idea, as opposed to staying focused on what it is that you do best and tuning out. And when I finally started to tune out, it was just a mindset shift to say, you know what? I'm not going to be disrespectful because you're showing me something. But Eric, I appreciate you sharing this with me. But right now, I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to get sidebar and sidetracked with that. And so Andy and I really want to talk about when you build up that mental toughness, I don't care what you do, just like you shifted over to being in the space that you're in now. The principles are the same, but it's how you think about it. And so having the mindset is the difference that we think will make for a great producer long-term versus those that are in for the quick hit. Because as Andy always says, we all got sold on the 3-day work week. You on golf for 4 days, and it's like the old videos at night, and you have the real estate guy, and he's got the dancing girls behind him, and there's a yacht, and there's a plane, and I'm like, shit, that ain't it. I mean, there's some people that don't live like that, but that's the upper echelon. That's the uber rich in our business. Everybody ain't doing that. But I can tell you what, you can have a great life doing what we do if you get focused, but you've got to wrap your mind around it. So we are excited about that show. We've got a lot of great feedback from folks because they felt like it was different. And of course, we try to look at the play on it and say, hey, this is something that I know you don't see. I know you don't hear. And let's give it to you in a different fashion. And it allows both of us to just be ourselves, man. And I think that's it. Once I bought into Eric some years ago about being my authentic self, man, that changed my life, man, because no longer am I looking to appease anybody, to help you, to like me somewhere along the line. You like me, there's a lot of people that won't like me, and I'm okay with that. But mindset is everything.
Mindset really is everything. And I like I like how you guys aren't afraid to tackle any subject, but what I really like is how you're not afraid to title your show Black and White.
Yes.
That is borderline, and I love it. But borderline, some people might say that's risque.
Oh, yeah.
And I like it.
They think it's real risque.
Right, but
and that's why we did it.
And I'm sure you and Andy had that conversation, but I like it. It punches you in the face in the best way possible. And I have the utmost respect for Andy and yourself. So when I first saw that get launched, I was like, whoa, that's awesome. I can't wait to tune in. So
yeah, it's been fantastic, man. And again, like I think for us, it's just, I know what Andy's focus is with younger advisors and advisors that are looking just to shift and change. And my focus is back to the conversation you and I had earlier. I mean, it's about exposure. And I'm talking about exposing everybody. We know that if they can get their mind right and they can get to think, I know people that have come into business with us, stayed maybe 2 or 3 years, learned a lot, and have gone on to other businesses that have absolutely nothing to do with insurance. And they are wildly successful. And when I asked them, well, what was the difference? Well, at 3 years, even though I wasn't able to make it in the insurance business, everything that I learned, everything I learned about mindset, every book you had me read, everything that you had me to consider, at that time, every tape you had me listen to, or CD you had me, that is what was in me. And when I went to do this business venture, I was able to carry that from there, here, and now I've been successful. And so that to me is everything. We want to continue. We're just on that soapbox, man. Let's get people thinking right. You get them thinking right. And you and I know in this country, man, you can have whatever the hell it is that you want to if you got the right mindset. Now it's gonna take some work, baby. It's gonna take some work, Eric. However, it beats the alternative, man.
Yeah, no doubt. For those that are curious about the show that we've been talking about, Black and White, Truth About Benefit Advising with Kareim Cade and Andy Neary, check it out. They both share it on their LinkedIn social media profiles every few weeks when a new episode gets released. I highly recommend you check them out. And they're just sharing, and it's good. They're just sharing a couple minute clips here and there. The full episodes are easy to watch and digest, and they're on Andy's YouTube page. So check that out. The link is always right there in the comment section of any of the posts that both Kareim and Andy make. Look, man, you said it all. I don't know anything else I can ask you or talk about. It's been a blast.
Man, it's been great. And let me say this, Eric, before you go, man, I appreciate you inviting me, but more importantly, I appreciate you taking the platform and doing something very positive with it and giving people something else that they can hold on to, giving them additional access points, giving them ways of thinking about things that they haven't thought about. And the mere fact that you got getting engaged and getting involved, because it can be very self-serving. I mean, I've watched some of these other podcasts with other people, and it's all about them. But you taking the time to put the spotlight on other folks, but also to help with our industry to keep it growing, man. I just say hats off to you, kudos to you, man, and I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of your platform today, man. Thanks a lot.
Oh man, the words mean very much a lot to me. I appreciate that, and yeah, that's what it's all about. And you're the rock star, you're rocking, and we're having a lot of fun out there doing it together. For anybody that wants to connect with Kareim, again, Kareim Cade on LinkedIn, check it out. Do not hesitate to hit that follow button and or the connect button if you feel so inclined. And Kareim is spelled, as you see it in the comments, Kareim Cade. Kareim, do you have a website you can send people to if they want to just check out what you're doing business-wise?
Absolutely. We're at www.greatlakesbenefitgroup.com.
GreatLakeBenefitsGroup.com. I love it. And look, man, you know this because you and Andy, you record and then you have somebody go and edit it and put it together. If it wasn't for the people behind the scenes, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Woo! So by all means, I just show up and ask some questions and have some fun with cool guys like you. But for everybody behind the scenes at the RockstarsRocking podcast, I'm Eric Silverman. That is was and always will be Kareim Cade, my guest of the week. And for everybody watching and listening, anywhere you consume podcasts, if you have a question, thoughts, ideas for future shows, please drop them in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Thank you, bud.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Rockstars Rocking podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. 5 stars would totally rock. Until next time, rock stars, keep rocking.